Hi, sixth graders. This is Mrs. Guido. I wanted to read for you section 2. If it's helpful, please use the audio as you're working on your graphic organizer. Section 2, Cities and Civilizations. Some key ideas from this section of the text. As populations grew, farming villages developed into cities. In several fertile river valleys, cities gave rise to the world's first civilizations. And early civilizations all had certain features in common. As farming spread, many small settlements appeared. In time, some villages grew into cities. In this section, you will read about early cities and how they led to the rise of early civilizations. The first cities. The world's first cities began as farming villages in the Middle East. As the villages grew, they began to trade with one another. Trade, like farming, became an important source of wealth. The city of Uruk. At the beginning of this chapter, you read a story about the ancient city of Uruk. Although the story is a legend, the city was real. In fact, many historians considered Uruk to be the world's first city. It was founded around 6,000 to 7,000 years ago. Uruk was different from Çatalhöyük and other older farming villages. One difference was Uruk's size. Çatalhöyük covered about 32 acres and was home to no more than 6,000 people. In comparison, when Uruk was at its height, more than 40,000 people lived there. Uruk covered an area of nearly 1,000 acres and had houses, gardens, and large public buildings such as temples. Another difference was Uruk's form of government. Villages, such as Çatalhöyük, had little need for complex government. People acted and made decisions according to ancient village customs. A village council settled most disputes. A city such as Uruk was too large to manage that way. Uruk had a strong, well organized government. The city's first rulers were probably temple priests. Later, powerful military leaders ruled Uruk as kings. These rulers had far more power than a village council did. Centers of wealth. A city such as Uruk also had a more complex economy than did early farming villages. An economy is the system that a community uses to produce and distribute goods and services. The economy of a society or nation is defined by how it answers three basic questions. These questions should be familiar from our study of culture and economy earlier in the year. What goods and services should be produced? How should goods and services be produced? And who should get and use goods and services? In the earliest human communities, the answers to these three economic questions were fairly simple. Each group produced those goods and services that were necessary for its survival. The group produced these goods and services by hunting and gathering. The goods and services were then shared by the members of the community. Çatalhöyük's economy was based mainly on farming. By contrast, Uruk's more complex economy was based on both farming and trade. Workshops that produced all kinds of goods lined the city streets. Traders from Uruk traveled widely. Archaeologists have found pottery and other trade goods from Uruk in many places in the Middle East. The wealth of Uruk and other early cities attracted many newcomers. People began to move from the countryside into the cities. Many early cities built walls to protect themselves from raiders. Uruk, for example, was surrounded by a thick wall that stretched for 6 miles around the city. This wall was a sign that Uruk was a wealthy city worth protecting. At the bottom of this page, 91, the caption reads, "Even the ruins of Uruk give a hint of the great city it was 7,000 years ago." On page 92, you'll see a map of early civilizations. And looking at the key, you'll be able to see the river valley civilizations and what their names were. The rise of civilizations. As early cities grew in size and power, some of them became centers of civilizations. A civilization is a complex society that has cities, a well organized government, and workers with specialized job skills. The word civilization comes from the Latin word civis, meaning resident of a city. The importance of resources. The rise of early civilizations depended on the creation of a food surplus. Creating that surplus, in turn, depended on the ability of people to manage their resources well. A resource is a supply of something that can be used as needed. The most important resources that people needed were fertile soil, fresh water, and seeds. However, these resources were worth little if people could not provide the labor and tools needed to produce enough food. Managing these resources well required a level of planning and organization that marked a new stage in human society. Settings of early civilizations. Like the earliest villages, the earliest civilization also appeared in southwestern Asia, in the city states of Sumer. You will read more about Sumerian civilization in the next chapter. In time, other civilizations appeared in different parts of the world. Four of these early civilizations developed in the fertile valleys surrounding major rivers: the Nile in northeastern Africa, the Tigris and Euphrates in southwest Asia, the Indus in South Asia, and the Huang River in China. You can see the locations of those river valleys on the map that we just saw. River valleys provided a good setting for permanent settlements. Each year, the rivers rose and flooded and the nearby land. When the floodwaters went down, a fresh layer of fertile soil remained that farmers could use to grow crops. Not all early civilizations began in river valleys, however. Greek civilization, for example, emerged on a rocky peninsula in southeastern Europe and a series of islands in the eastern Mediterranean Sea. The Maya civilization started in the rainforests of present day Mexico and Central America. The Inca civilization began in the Andes Mountains of South America. Features of civilizations. The civilizations that arose in different parts of the world differed in many ways. Still, all of them had certain things in common. Early civilizations shared 8 basic features: cities, organized governments, established religion, job specialization, social classes, public works, arts and architecture, and a system of writing. Cities. The first of these features was cities. Early cities emerged near farming centers. As food surpluses led to rapid population growth, villages grew into cities. They served as centers of religion, government, and culture. A few ancient population centers, such as Damascus, Syria, are still major cities today. Organized governments. The second feature of early civilizations was a well organized government. One role of government is managing society's resources so that people get those things they need to survive. A strong government can also form and train an army to defend a society from attack or to expand its borders. As populations grew, government became more difficult. Rulers came to rely on large numbers of public officials who handled different duties. Established religion. A third common feature of civilization was an established or set up, an officially set up religion, or a set of shared beliefs about supernatural powers that created and rule the world. Religion was often linked to government. Rulers of early civilizations usually claimed that their right to rule came from the gods. In China, for example, emperors were called sons of heaven. In most early civilizations, people believed in many gods and goddesses that controlled most events in their lives. People feared their gods, but also hoped that the gods would protect them from harm. To keep their gods and goddesses happy, priests offered sacrifices and led prayers. This prayer is from the civilization of ancient Sumer. May the wrath of the heart of my God be pacified. May the God who is unknown to me be pacified. May the goddess who is unknown to me be pacified. May the known and unknown God be pacified. May the known and unknown goddess be pacified. The sin which I have committed I know not. My God, my sins are 7 times 7. Forgive my sins. My goddess, my sins are 7 times 7. Forgive my sins. As you can see on the bottom of page 94, it shows the 8 features of civilization, which we're reading about right now, and we learned about in class yesterday. From earliest times, religion included belief about life after death. People also looked to religion for rules about how to treat one another and how to live moral lives. Job specialization. Job specialization was a fourth feature that was common to civilizations. Most people in early civilizations were farmers. They produced enough food to support many kinds of specialized workers, such as priests, rulers, soldiers, craft workers, and others. Priests specialized in religious activities. Rulers and soldiers specialized in keeping order in a society and protecting it from outside threats. Skilled craft workers specialized in producing goods. Traders and merchants specialized in buying and selling goods. Job specialization allowed people within a society to develop the many skills and talents needed to create and maintain a civilization. Social classes. A fifth feature of early civilizations was a system of social classes. Social classes are groups of people that occupy different ranks or levels in society. Class structures resembled pyramids, with the smallest number of people at the top and the largest number of people at the bottom. The highest social class in most early societies was made up of priests and rulers. The people at these ranks had the most power and wealth. The social classes in the middle included farmers, merchants, and skilled workers. Members of these classes varied in wealth and status from one society to another. In many societies, slaves made up the lowest class. Slaves were often prisoners captured in war or poor people who sold themselves to pay their debts. Public works. Public works were a sixth feature of civilizations. Governments organized workers to build large scale projects such as roads, water systems, city walls, and granaries where food was stored after harvesting. Building these public works was costly, time consuming, and often dangerous. Often workers were injured or killed. Still, public works benefited the society as a whole. Arts and architecture. Architecture was closely related to public works. Early people built and decorated magnificent temples, tombs, and palaces. Many of these buildings served a public function, but they were also objects of beauty. Early civilizations developed other forms of art as well. In this chapter, you can see a number of examples of statues and paintings that date back thousands of years. Skilled craft workers also produced fine luxury items for the upper classes, such as gold, jewelry, and perfume boxes. Music and literature, too, enriched the lives of early people and became a mark of advanced civilization. Systems of writing. The final common feature of civilizations was a system of writing. Forms of writing varied from pictures writing to symbols representing sounds and letters. In some early societies, writing was first developed mainly to record numbers, such as the amount of grain harvested. Eventually, however, people used writing to preserve all kinds of information. They recorded laws, wrote down prayers to the gods, and described the mighty deeds of rulers. Historians have learned much about early civilizations from the written records they left behind. With the development of writing, we pass from prehistory to recorded history. Now, please complete your graphic organizer showing all the different elements of culture and the worksheets that follow.